And we are recording. Welcome back to another episode of Get to Know Your New Breed Black Belts. Today is our first New Breed Black Belt that's actually not in Illinois. Today we have Shannon White, who runs True Art Brazilian Jiu Jitsu out of Northeast Ohio. I forget exactly where. Shannon, can you say hello for everybody,
Hello, everybody.
please? So, Shannon, wow, that was, we met, what was that, 2012? Was it 2012? Something like that?
Yeah, like 2011, 2012.
Yeah, right around there.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
let's see here. You were a blue belt at the time.
yeah. We actually met at a tournament in Medina. It was a no. You were in a no-gi invite.
Correct.
It was like an 8-man no-gi invite. You were there competing, and funny story. Like I think like we got the reason that like we ended up like kind of talking was at the time we were wearing Mitria's subculture gis at the time, so it was kind of like a conversation starter with him and. Yeah, you came out for a seminar, and the rest of it was kind of history from there.
Right. That was the actually it was a I believe that was the Nogi one, right? That was a 16-man invite where they had the little
Yeah,
guys on one mat, the big guys on another mat, and then the big guys would fight the little guys at the end and kind of go from there.
yeah.
Yeah, that was also I think was that your mom's first tournament? I think you remember
It
telling me the
was,
story of your mom's first tournament.
yeah. So the very first jiu-jitsu match my mother ever saw um, was when you actually choked your opponent unconscious with a guillotine, high elbow guillotine. And needless to say, it scared her pretty bad. She was like, "Oh man, I don't know about this. This is kind of scary." But yeah, it's kind of funny now that my mom and I actually kind of laugh about that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it
it's
is.
very very funny.
I remember that too because I remember the match itself. He was out. He's doing
Oh
the
yeah,
shaky. And I'm sitting there
oh
looking at
yeah.
the ref. I'm like, he's out.
He's out, man. Yeah. I
He's
was
out.
maybe, I don't know. I mean, I was maybe like 10 feet from the mat. And yeah, that was an interesting experience to say the
Uh,
least for both my parents to see and for me to see. So
the video is actually on YouTube somewhere, and you could actually hear the crowd go, "Ooh!" when he was
yeah, it's bad.
everyone realized he's just shaking and like, "Ooh, that's not good." How long now have you been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
I have been training Brazilian Jiu Jitsu for 11 years. I started in 2009. So 11 years I've been doing Jiu Jitsu.
11 years, and prior to that, you were wrestling ever since you were a little kid, right? 4 or 5, something like young,
I
really young.
started, yeah, yeah, really young. I live in Ohio. Wrestling's a big thing here. And, I started wrestling when I was 6 years old. I remember like my mom always told me like I brought home like a flyer from school. Knowing like me, I was like a big time wrestling fan, like WWE fan. Back then it was WWF, and I probably thought that's probably what it was like. But I went to wrestling practice, and we had tons of kids. We had like over 100 kids on our youth team wrestling, and yeah, I wrestled. Started at 6 years old. I played baseball and normal sports as a kid, but wrestling is what I stuck with. I stopped playing baseball when I was almost in middle school, and then I stuck with wrestling all the way up through high school.
But I actually didn't. I completely forgot about your baseball background. That probably explains why you could throw an axe pretty damn well. Pretty damn well. Is it like your third throw is just down the middle? I'm like, okay. All right, clearly you've done something like this before, and
Right.
literally now I'm putting one and one together. Let's see here. So that was 11 years now. You've been training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu plus a whole bunch of wrestling. How it's clearly, and I know we've talked about this before. It's clearly important for, the wrestling component rather is clearly important for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Do you feel it's 100% necessary to learn wrestling now at the highest levels of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the competitive level now?
Yeah.
I have a follow-up
Yeah.
question for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, I think it depends on your weight class. Honestly, I think it's important to have it if you do. But there are guys out there in certain weight classes that don't wrestle, but that have success. Like Musa Meshi's one. Like he doesn't wrestle a lot, and he's obviously a very very accomplished competitor. But I think at the higher weight classes, I think once you hit like lightweight, middleweight, and up, most of those guys like are kind of weary, depending upon who you're fighting, to pull guard on, just because they're heavier. You know what I mean? Like they're heavier guys. They still are fast. They're still very strong. So yeah, I definitely think wrestling is something that is definitely going to help you. It's only going to help you get better. It gives you more control. It helps. Like the most important things I think that you get from wrestling are not so much of the moves is just like the mental toughness that you get from it, the grind that you get from it. And but yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course that, and the technique, you know what I mean? Like being able to score takedowns, like even at a high level in grappling, like even the most simple of sweeps that you see at the black belt level is just a guy getting up with a single leg. You know, when there's like a minute left on the clock, most guys just feed a lapel or a sleeve, or they just sit up on like from the sit-up guard and just get up with a single leg and try to take the guy down. You see it a lot. So, and it seems to be very effective for them because, you know, the higher that you get, the more that a move is complex. I just find it to be very difficult to work at like a very high level. So most of it is actually very simple.
So, like, would it be fair to say then that out of wrestling, the one thing that translates the most out of wrestling, the one skill, for lack of better terms, or characteristics that you learn from wrestling, is that kind of like dealing with that grit and that kind of pounding and that blue collar stuff to finish, say, a sweep or finish, say, a
Yeah.
something like that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like, I think growing up, like, you know, I was never the best wrestler. You know what I mean? Like, I never won a state title. I never even made it to the state tournament in high school. You know, that's something that kind of like, I think it was like a blessing and a curse because there are plenty of guys out there that are high level dudes that are super tough. But honestly, like being just an average kid that, you know, I took my lumps in the training room. I took my lumps in tournaments, you know, win a couple matches and then lose, you know, then you have to come back in the consolations. And so, yeah, you definitely learn to get beat up, but you get up off of that beating and you have to just keep moving on. So, you know, you're going to lose. And if you lose again, you're out of the tournament. So you kind of have that, you know, that mindset of like, it's do or die. Like I have to win this match. So when you're constantly in that kind of mindset a lot, you know, every season, you know, you wrestle 40, 50 matches a season and, you know, you're constantly in that environment, that intense environment where you're training like that. And yeah, absolutely. You know, you can definitely, you get that mentality of like, once I get a hold of the leg, like it's mine, like I'm going to put you down. Like I'm going to make you pay for this position. And for sure, you know, when you have that type of that grit and that determination to get a sweep or get on top and stay on top, it definitely is an edge that you have over your opponent who's never done that, who's never been in that type of situation before.
So how would you say then, so this is like my real follow-up question. How would you say, so I mean, we're pretty fortunate here in the Midwest, wrestling background, blue collar, for the most
Yeah.
part. And honestly, I know that, I think you were the one that told me that Medina, Ohio has, I guess, per capita, the most high school wrestlers in the country or something to that effect. It was something to that effect. I know I'm misquoting you, but it was something to that effect. Right? But along those lines, again, we're very fortunate being in the Midwest that, you know, in our jiu-jitsu schools, we're going to run into a lot of people that have some sort of wrestling background. What would you say rather to those individuals who don't have that opportunity to run into a lot of wrestlers like we do? How, like for you, what would you recommend those guys, or how would you recommend that those guys get more exposure to wrestlers or get better at wrestling? Because I mean, of course, there's going to be places, I would say, who knows? I don't know. Probably someone from Alaska is going to shoot me or something like that with a bear or whatever like that. But let's just say someone in Alaska is training jiu-jitsu and they want to get better at wrestling because they feel it's a missing component. How can you get better at wrestling without actually finding wrestlers or a very limited supply of wrestlers?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, like, you know, the Midwest is saturated with high level wrestling. You know, you have Iowa, Illinois, Ohio, you know, these states are, you know, the Pennsylvania, of course, you know, they probably what I said is like, at least the state of Pennsylvania, they put out the most All-Americans every single year.
Right.
You know, they have a ton of All-Americans. You know, Ohio always has national champions on the podium, Illinois, Iowa. But like realistically, you know, if you're in a state that doesn't have super high level wrestling, you know, let's just say for a per capita, it's Alaska. You know, the one thing that, you know, I would recommend doing is like, nowadays there's so much on the internet that we didn't have when I was even in high school. You have so much exposure now to such high level techniques. And to me, it's not an excuse to not have people around now because like, you know, like doing jujitsu, like where I'm from, like jujitsu, it wasn't super popular when I started. The only way that we got good at jujitsu was actually from doing jujitsu. So for me, like, I think that if you don't have people around, it's being able to go back to being a white belt again. Like you're just going to have to, if you have that opportunity, you're just going to have to teach yourself. Like you're going to have to fail over and over again. Like start with the basics. I mean, like just a straight knee over, just like penetration steps, and then work on sprawling, and then just honestly put yourself in those situations where you're forced to wrestle. Yes, it's going to take you a lot longer, for sure. I mean, it's going to take you a lot longer than someone sitting there teaching you how to do something. But if you really want to get good, you'll figure it out eventually. Like, it's just like sparring live. Like, you'll get used to it the more you do it. But of course, it is going to be very difficult. Like, if you don't have someone that you can bring in, you don't have the ability to go out, like to travel, to go to a wrestling clinic, or maybe go to a local high school, or whatever it is, you're going to have to just do it the old fashioned way, where you're just going to have to throw yourself out there and be like, I'm only going to, every match that I start for the next 6 months in the gym, I'm only going to do stand up, and I'm just going to try to shoot a head outside single, just a high crotch, or a head inside single, or double leg, or I'm just going to try to score in a front headlock. And you just work on those things. And the more that you do them, just like sparring in jiu-jitsu, when you try to learn a new position, you'll figure it out eventually. It's going to take you more time, of course, and you're going to fail. But again, you're going to learn how not to do stuff, and you'll get it eventually. It's just, are you willing to fail in order to actually fill that kind of hole in your game?
No, that's actually kind of the way I kind of sort of learned. I'm not a good wrestler by any stretch of the means, but the little wrestling that I know, I learned by basically, I remember it was like in 08, 07, 08, where it was over a summer, literally from June to from Memorial Day to Labor Day. I basically told myself, like, every single day I train, I'm going to wrestle at the end of class when no one's there for 15 minutes. 15 minutes,
Yeah.
I'll take whoever's left over, and let me just try to take everybody down. And it's
Oh yeah, but that's it right there, man. I mean, it takes zero talent to train hard, to train after practice. Like, what's 15 minutes at the end of practice? Most guys take their gear off, they hang out. What's another 15 minutes of just shooting a double leg? You know what I mean? Penetration step, or a single, whatever, low single. It's ankle pick, knee pick. It doesn't take any talent to just stay and work on it. If you really truly want to do that, then you'll get better. Like, one of my best training partners, Timmy wrestled for like 2 years. He wrestled in middle school for like 2 years, and really good athlete, but literally after training, he would do takedowns for like 15, 20 minutes. And now he takes guys down that have wrestled their whole lives, just because he worked on it, for consistent. And I'm not saying like for just a few months, like he did it consistently for years.
Right. So what would you say then, as a beginner, what would be the one thing to focus on in order to kind of get better at wrestling? Would it just be like stance, or just defensive wrestling, or just develop one, like a good double leg or a good single leg? What would you say, in your opinion, if it was just one thing that you could say, like, all right, brand new student, never wrestled in his life, just was like, or like an accountant who wants to sit there and just wants to, eventually learn to compete and stuff, but has zero knowledge of wrestling, just only closed guard stuff, but wants to start taking people down because they're tired of getting their guard passed? What would you say would be like the one thing they're going to work on right away?
Yeah. So, I mean, just like in jiu-jitsu, or in any sport for that matter, it's the foundation, right? Like, if you have a really solid foundation, you can build on that. So, for me, it starts with the basics, like a rock solid stance, just how to move your feet, how to keep your elbows in tight, how to keep your head up, head up, back straight, hips in, the basic fundamentals of wrestling. Start with just a really good stance. And if you can understand, realistically, if you can stop people from taking you down, and just using just like even the most simple front headlock, being able to snap someone down to their knees and spin to their back, and just understanding that you can win probably, at, depending upon the level, a majority of your matches just using simple wrestling, like front headlock, and then maybe if you had like a snatch single, just honestly lower your level, put your head in the chest, wrap your hands around the leg, and just run the pipe and sit the guy to his butt. Keep it simple, you know what I mean? Because especially at a very low level, you can't make it too complicated. You don't have to get into like, super fancy moves and stuff like that. The basics will get you by, especially in jiu-jitsu. There's not a super high level, like there's not a lot of high level dudes in jiu-jitsu that come from a high level, like wrestling pedigree. There's really not. I mean, there are some, but for the most part, like the wrestling is not bad, but the thing is, you run into at a high level are the athletes. I can tell you plenty of times that I've wrestled that I've been beaten. I was a better wrestler, but the guy beat me because he was a better athlete. So, and that happens a lot, you see it. But I think like for a basic beginner, just working on solid stance, good shot defense, good sprawl, good front headlock, just off of that, just being able to spin to the back, and, just a simple snatch single attack with ease, like 2 easy finishes off of it. If I can't sit the guy down, I can run like a Barzagar finish, and that's it. Just keep it as simple as possible, and then you can build from there.
As an aside, before we move on, I just want to say, Han, I hope to God you're listening to that, because you just stick to the basics. Stop asking me about lapel guard stuff and work on stuff like your damn stand up and like not getting taken down. Stop pulling guard and trying to play lapel guard. It's beyond you right now. It's over your head. So,
Sorry, man.
no, thank you for that. He needs to hear that. So just listen to that man. He knows what he's talking about, huh? But anyway, so let's kind of go back a little bit and go back to kind of when I first met you in the training room and everything like that. You were part of a school called East Coast Martial Arts. And,
That's right. Yeah. So that's where I started jiu-jitsu. It's a little gym in the Canton area. They've expanded to a beautiful facility now. And, I was very fortunate to be able to, start my jiu-jitsu journey there. Like there really weren't any jiu-jitsu gyms around, realistically that offered like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, like in like legit Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So, there were like little MMA schools here and there, but like nothing that offered like, especially in the gi. So yeah, I mean, that's, just walking through the doors day one, it was, very, very good experience.
one of the talking on experiences, one of the things that I know that you were exposed to and I was exposed to as well was the founder and owner of East Coast Martial Arts, Steve Hyman. Fortunately, Steve Hyman passed away some few years ago, but he was a great man, one of the nicest men I've ever met, an OG, a true OG martial artist.
Oh,
Was
yeah.
in Pride with Butterbean. His stories are great. And if you ever had the experience, I know some of us were very fortunate enough to meet him, like guys like Teode, Nick Mitria,
Right.
Nick, Sam, list goes on. And, Steve's come up to Chicago a few times, and I know that he's had a major influence in your life. And to me, he was a really good friend. He would call me out of blue, and
Mm-hmm.
we'd have conversations, just random conversations, have a fun time as well too. But he's been through a lot, and it was one of the things that interested me about him being a school owner and martial artist is his disposition. He was just really chill and relaxed about everything. What was, if you could pin it down, I guess to like one, maybe two things. What were some of the lessons? What was a lesson, or what were some of the lessons that you really learned from him? How did he really influence you?
I would say probably one of the first things that I learned from was just like trying to be as humble as possible. Like he really like, I mean, he was one of the baddest dudes I've ever met in my life. I first met him, I mean, he was every bit of like 6'3", 6'4", probably weighed 225 maybe. I mean, just a big guy, very, very dangerous on the ground and super dangerous on the feet. So, but honestly, like he was the nicest guy, man. Like he'd give you the shirt off his back, would do anything for you. And, but it was always that thing, like he would let you know, like if you upset him, like it was very much like, he was a very, very nice guy, but at the same time, like he would let you know, like if you made him mad for sure. So, I of all the things that I learned from him, being a humble person and just, that just being a martial artist, like he had trained in Muay Thai, he trained jiu-jitsu, he had traveled all over the world doing martial arts, cornered in Pride and all these different MMA organizations, and was, very, very well respected. And, I think like that's a big thing is like everyone loved the guy. I didn't know anyone that didn't like him. That was such an amazing thing. Like, people would just come around him. I remember like being at the gym, and he always drove like this black Subaru, and it had like a Yakima rack on the top of it. And I remember like, whenever he would pull in, it was like, I was like a dog, you know what I mean? I would get all excited, and, just so many things that the guy taught me both on and off the mat. Again, being humble, he always told me, don't break your toys. And what he meant by that was like your training partners, because when I was younger, man, just going as hard as I could, trying to get as good as I could, fighting as hard as I could. He's just like, you can't do that with everyone. Some people you have to take it easier on, some people you can go harder with. And he would always tell me, don't break your toys. And just, I remember we were riding in the car on our way back from South Carolina one time, and he ended up taking the wrong way because he was talking on the phone and he wasn't paying attention. So he ended up driving like 2 hours in the wrong direction. Oh yeah. 2 hours in the wrong direction.
That's not good.
And we finally figured it out. I was like, hey, why are you on this highway? He's like, I don't take this. We should have been on 77. We figured out he went the wrong way. But looking back, like I'm super fortunate that I got to spend that extra time with him because, it's one of those things like when when someone is super important in your life and you really look for advice from them all the time, and then they're gone, it's devastating. That devastated me for a long time. That was one of the hardest things I've ever had to deal with in my life. But the legacy that the dude left behind that impacts people to this day. I mean, their academy, East Coast Martial Arts, has nothing but an outstanding reputation in the jiu-jitsu community, in the martial arts community. They have great instructors. It's a phenomenal place, and I have nothing but good things to say about it. And I'm very fortunate to be able to have trained there, especially at a young age.
I agree as well too. I'm very fortunate to have met the people at East Coast Martial Arts. Very nice people, like every single person. I mean, just extremely easy to get along with. Just good guys to sit there and kind of chat with and everything else. And of course, Mr. Hyndman. Mr. Hyndman was, he was the leader there. He was clearly the person that everyone went to for everything.
No, man. Yeah.
And
he was like our glue. He was like the glue that held us together. And it was always great to have him come in and teach class and to see him. Because he lived partial of the time that I started. He lived in Ohio still, and then he moved to Charleston, South Carolina, and lived there. So I didn't get to see him, as much as I'd like to, as much as I saw him when I was, coming up through the ranks of jiu-jitsu. And, I remember like him just realizing, like, telling me like, you're going to be good at this sport, man. But like, just because you're talented or, you're good at this, like, you're going to go through the ranks just like everybody else. You're going to earn your belts, and we're not going to move you through just because you are progressing faster than everyone else. And even back then, like, I think like the reason that I was progressing was just because like jiu-jitsu was still in its infancy here. Like, it wasn't super popular, I mean? Like, compared to other parts of the country, I mean? That was just where we were in that state. And it's just very, very awesome to see where jiu-jitsu's come. And he definitely has he has left a huge footprint in that development of jiu-jitsu athletes in Northeast Ohio and in just the Ohio area in general, the Midwest.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. I mean, there's a lot of people have kind of have been in contact with him and, through his life and everything, and just kind of, just you could see the impact. You can see how everyone knew who he was and what everyone would still do for him, even though he's not with us anymore. Let me change gears a little bit. And so people don't know, and again, Shannon obviously is in Ohio, Northeast Ohio, and doesn't really have the opportunity anymore, especially since you've been running True Art, to come out to Chicago as often. For many people, they probably just met you the first time at the 15-year anniversary. Now, little funny side stories, stuff like that. You probably didn't really have a chance to talk to Shannon all that much because he was pretty much guarding that bottle of Blanton's the whole time at the
guarding with my life.
Just guarding it the whole time, just like, just looking at it, just like, nope, not sharing any of this with any of you. But that was a good time. The story that I want to say is actually not what happened at the 15-year anniversary. It's what happened at the 10-year anniversary.
Or
so
what didn't happen. What didn't happen.
Yeah, or what. So
okay, all right. I know where this is going.
Yeah, you know exactly where this is going. This is one of my favorite stories. This is one of my favorite Shannon stories. I'm out eating with. I was like, what? It was a Friday night. I remember it was literally the night before the anniversary. You were supposed to come join us later on that night and kind of like, because you were getting in late that night and stuff. And I remember I'm sitting there having dinner with my brothers and my family and a couple out-of-town guests, and I get a call. It's like, hey, we aren't going to make it. We're not going to make it. We're not going to make it. Yeah, we're shut down. So I'm going to let you finish that story.
What
happened there?
Okay, so we left to get from Ohio to Chicago. There's two ways of doing it. You can really, there's a bunch of ways of doing it, but if you're going to drive, you can take I-80, which pretty much turns into the Skyway, the Chicago Skyway. You can take that, which is a toll road, or you can take Route 30. I had never taken Route 30 before, and you don't have to pay the tolls. So I have me, my now wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, and my buddy Dom with me. So we are driving. We're almost out of, I believe we were almost, I'm not sure where Van Wert, Indiana is, but we were like almost out of Van Wert, Indiana. And I ended up, it was very dark, a very rural area, cornfields all over the place. I ended up hitting a dead deer in the middle of the highway at about 80 miles an hour in my mother-in-law's brand new Audi A5. and it destroyed that car. I mean, like I pulled over to the side of the road. It was anything that had any type of fluid was leaking. Antifreeze, anything you could think of in that car was actually leaking. It started to overheat because I ended up trying to move it a little bit, and it ended up just overheating. So we had to call a tow truck. Tow truck towed us to the nearest hotel, and then we had to get picked up the next morning by my parents to drive us back to Ohio. Totaled the car. Yeah, so we ended up hitting a deer, and I remember calling because it was late in the it was it was cold outside, and I forget what you asked me. You're like, did you hit? What did you hit? Like hit a deer. It wasn't flying though, or something like that. We had like some Santa joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely was. It was a huge downer, man. Honestly, like we wanted to be there. At the time, like it's just something that we really wanted to be a part of, and it was a huge downer to not be able to be there and see the rest of the guys, train and whatnot. But
okay, you made up for it. You made up
yeah,
for
we
it.
made up for it. Yeah.
You made up for it. It's all good.
And I actually took a flight to 15 years. And everyone that knows me knows that I hate to fly. I'm horrified of flying. But yeah, I ended up taking a flight. Didn't hit any deer that time. But yeah, man, it sucked, but it's definitely a hilarious story to tell.
Wait, you forgot the one funniest part was when the state trooper or whoever it was, the cop.
Oh yeah,
caught up with you.
Oh yeah, right when so I had to call like State Highway Patrol because I was like, I'm broke down on the side of the road. It's not lit at all. It's like a real rural area. Cars are flying by me, and we're off on the side of the road. So I called the State Highway Patrol. I'm like, hey, we're roughly at this mile marker. We just passed like a rest stop. And they're like, oh, okay, we'll have someone on you in, a couple minutes. So the state highway patrolman pulls up, like turns his lights on, and I get out of the car, and he looks at me and goes, did you hit that deer back there? Like, yeah. He's like, damn, man, you obliterated that thing. I was like, dude, it was dead in the road. So that was really, he's like, damn, dude. He's like, you smashed that thing. I was like, yeah, my bad. So it was all over the car, man. Like all underneath the car. It was so disgusting. I felt horrible, but it was actually crazy because when we hit it, the car actually like left the ground a little bit. Like the front of the car came up and slammed down. It was terrifying.
Oh man, it's good.
But only me though. You know what I mean? Only in Ohio. You have horrible trips though. Anytime that you drive to Ohio, it always rains.
It rains. Yes, that is a consistent thing. It always, and it's not just like a sprinkle. It's a downpour. It's always driving back from visiting you guys. That's why now. Thank you for helping me fly out there all the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's still a lot of wind shear landing either in Cleveland, which is worse than landing in Akron, Canton, but always a bunch of wind shear coming off Lake Erie. So it's always an adventure coming to visit you guys. That's the truth there. One of the things, so you've been running True Art now for a little over a year. No, almost 2 years.
Yeah, almost 2 years.
It's gonna be 2 years in September. Here's a little funny thing is that Shannon and I are basically cut from the same cloth, old school. I had Jared on last week, and it was funny because Yeshua, I don't know if you ever met Yeshua, he always used to sit there and say that I was the Asian version of Jared, and you are the younger version of me. So basically, all three of us are just assholes.
Yeah, oh yeah, 100%.
For lack of better terms. But one of the things that I love about visiting the guys at True Art is how hard everyone works. It's that blue collar mentality. This last visit was the first time you actually let me teach a class. Like, to be honest with you, it was just like, I believe that was the first time you ever let me teach a class there. And I was surprised. You're like, you want to show us something? I'm like, oh, dude, I didn't plan on showing it. But all right, fine, whatever. But it was a lot of fun because those guys, they want to learn. They ask a ton of questions. And when they train, I love training there. I like going there for just to sit there and kind of just like, all right, I'm going to go visit Shannon and the boys at True Art. And I know that every round is going to be a battle and everyone's going to try to kill me. Let's just go. I love it. I love the way that you run class. I love everyone's mentality about the stuff. And like you said, everyone's pretty humble. You have some heavy hitters in that room. And for those people who don't know, for all the guys at New Breed and all the rest of our affiliates that are watching this, And even though for all the jiu-jitsu practitioners that aren't affiliated with us watching this, Shannon's guys are probably some of the toughest, most unknown guys in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, MMA, and everything else. And it's for me, I think it's about time that you guys get out there and start messing people up and stuff. And I know we've talked about this ad nauseum.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like for me, I'm really excited to see that. And honestly, Shannon, he hasn't competed since purple belt, correct?
Yeah.
Since purple belt?
2014.
Right. The purple belt dream team picture. That
Christmas card
yes,
picture.
it is a Christmas card picture. You're right.
Christmas card picture.
You're correct. But for me, when everything goes back to normal, I can't wait to see you guys, start making waves in the Midwest. Again, if you guys don't know, Shannon and his crew, some of the best jiu-jitsu in Ohio. Yes, there's other guys there too, but Shannon is like the biggest unknown commodity in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in the Ohio, greater Ohio area. So guys, if you have the chance, I know Jimmy the Fish has, if you have the chance, go visit Shannon and the rest of the guys and get your butt kicked a little bit. Would you tell me is just like what we make up for lack of technique, we compensate with a hell of a lot of fight. And it's
there's a lot of fight.
It's a lot.
It's funny, like you watch, like the Pedigo guys, you know what I mean? Like it's funny to watch that because I'm not training those guys in the capacity that they are. Like they're not going that hard, but at the same time, it's that same mentality. Like, what we don't have in technique, because honestly, where we live, like we don't have exposure to like high level dudes. Like you don't have to be training with like a 5-time world champion to be good at jiu-jitsu. Like it helps. For sure. It helps to have someone like that to be able to push you. But at the same time, like as long as you're making guys around you really tough and like not letting them quit, like I always tell people, like, don't quit on yourself. Because if we're sparring and you quit, like you're just quitting on you. Like I'm not going to be upset because I'm not going to give up. But I think like when you're pushing each other, and as a coach, to be able to pull that out of someone, to make them keep fighting, what you don't have in technique, like you may not be the most technical guy or the most flashy jiu-jitsu, but you don't have to be. You can get you can get really far in this sport by just being mean and just being tough and just not giving up points, not giving up positions, and just fighting. Like Buchecha said the best about like Lowe, he's like, look, Leandro doesn't compete, Leandro fights. And that's like one thing about like a lot of guys in jiu-jitsu, especially at a high level, like a lot of those dudes just have that like that attitude that, that part of you saying that like that fuck you mentality of just like, you're not going to beat me today. And I think that goes a long way in this sport. And I think when you kind of have a room where you have guys that, are tough, but then you have guys that have never done anything, they've never done jiu-jitsu. They've never done anything physical really. But when you push them and you kind of are able to pull that side out of them a little bit, and they're like, yeah, man, I like to fight. Like I like to do this. It's a really, really cool experience to see that because, everybody always says like, jiu-jitsu's for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy, one of my students said it the best. Jiu-jitsu's for everyone, but not every gym is. And that's the truth. That is 100% the truth. There are different gyms out there you can go to and train where the sparring is easy, the training is easy. And then there are gyms where you go in and it's very difficult. The sparring's hard, the drilling's hard. No one, like the white belts give you fits, the blue belts give you fits. And it's an awesome, compliment when people, we have great grapplers, like Vitor Oliveira, he's in Columbus. He's 2.5 hours away from me. He's a world silver medalist. He's won multiple titles in jiu-jitsu. Dante Leon's a no-gi world champion. He's in Toledo. He's 3 hours away from me. We have great guys in the state, but they're all, spread out and far away. In Northeast Ohio, we don't really have like super accomplished guys that have done like great things at the adult level, like it gone to ADCC and stuff like that. So, for us to be here, to be able to compete and train hard and be up to date with jiu-jitsu, not just, actually move with the times of jiu-jitsu. And, we're excited to be able to put guys out there on the mat, at a high level, at the IBJJF level, and to see where we're at. And of course, we're going to take our lumps for sure. Like I know when I compete again as a black belt, it's going to be a learning process. Like I don't plan to go out there and be able to just destroy everyone. I know I'm going to have to learn to win at that level, but it's a challenge, and that's a good change of pace for me. And I look forward to it.
Yeah. It's like one of the things I'm really looking forward to seeing you get back on the mats. I know that you've been dealing with injuries, and you've, based on the last time we rolled, you're fine. You're healthy enough to
Yeah.
get out there and start making your mark. Um, for people who don't know, Shannon has now joined me as well as a lot of other people at the Masters divisions and stuff. So if you're on the wrong side of 30, watch out, because Shannon's going to sit there and kind of make a name for herself. He's like one of the guys to watch for sure. If you don't know Shannon yet, you will. I mean, you absolutely will. A lot of the guys in the gym who at Newbreed who have trained with you, like Tony was just mentioning, was that like right before all this like went down and stuff. We were talking about you. I forget how that came up, but he's just shaking his head. He's like, that guy's so good. That guy's so good. Like between yourself and John and the rest of the guys who are like, you know, in that Master 1 level, Fritz. I mean, you guys are tough as nails. Just absolutely
Yeah.
tough. Like, honestly can't wait to see you guys go out there and, you know, just get it done and stuff. And you guys always do a great job. Like the guys in Ohio, Iowa, like all of us, the whole team is just doing a great job of producing talent and really cultivating that, that like, hey man, let's train hard and be good buddies off the,
Yeah. I think it's important when you have, you know, like similar, you know, when you have affiliates that are all similar,
right,
all like-minded people that aren't different. You know, there are a lot of affiliations that, you know, they have people that are from different kind of mentalities, different walks of life that don't agree necessarily with the goals that they have for like their team or their gym. I feel like with us is like what separates us is like, yeah, we're like a little bit smaller, but at the same time, like everyone has like a common goal, and that's just to have good jiu-jitsu, but also have like we're like being a smaller team. It's more like it's quality over quantity rather than like you can have a bunch of guys. But if you have a tight knit group of dudes that all have a similar goal, and that's to be the best possible grappler you can be, only good things are going to happen when you have like that, like tight knit group of people that have one goal. And when you work really hard for it and you do it like together, you know, that's one thing that excites me a lot, you know, to be able to go back on the mat is to see guys like John and Osher and Leighton and those guys that I came up training with, you know, like, you know, that's one thing, like for me, like they went on to do great things like at, you know, brown belt and black belt. And then I was kind of the one that just, you know, I never lived up to like that goal that I had. So now I have to start a little bit later, but it's exciting for me. It's a good change of pace as an instructor, because when you're coaching all the time, you know, you don't get lazy, but in the sense you can use it as like a crutch. You can be like, oh, you know, I don't really have the time to train or whatever. But when you kind of get to the point where you look forward to it, like I look forward to this change of pace where I'm sparring harder, I'm training harder. I'm actually like going to probably start lifting weights for once in my life. And at that point, you know, it's just exciting to have that change of pace, to be able to do, you know, different things, and, you know, to be able to get back out there at you know, at a, I don't want to say a high level, because, you know, it's not the highest pinnacle of jiu-jitsu, obviously, but, you know, I consider myself a hobbyist, you know, a hobbyist like me. It's something that I definitely look forward to.
Well, if you're a hobbyist, all the hobbyists got to sit there and watch out for that, because, or some of the professionals need to watch out for some hobbyists, because you're pretty damn good. One of the things that always kind of impressed me about you is basically, and again, this is why I feel that we get along so well, is, you know, you're pretty much self-taught. Like you're pretty much self-taught. Back when, you know, when we first started this whole thing, I had myself and my training partners. It was Quan and I, where he was the brains and I was the nutso. And we would just bounce ideas off of each other. And, you know, it wasn't like today where you could sit there and subscribe to whatever, insert your name here online or do whatever.
There was no YouTube, no Flow Grappling.
Yeah, you were exposure. You were like somewhere in the CD stage. There wasn't even DVDs. There was like the CD stage and stuff.
Yeah, dude, the Walkmans.
Yeah, like
Walkmans.
The video CDs. You're basically, that's like kind of your era of jiu-jitsu resources and stuff. One of the things that always kind of impressed me about you is how you developed your jiu-jitsu IQ, which I talk about all the time. Jiu-jitsu IQ, like you said, without being exposed to consistent training with, you know, with your 5-time world champion or what have you and stuff. It's a testament that, you know, it's a true statement. Like it's all these guys started somewhere. Even these 5-time world champions, when they were going up and when they were going through the ranks as well too, some of these guys didn't have the exposure to, you know, what some of us can have right now. And you, like you mentioned earlier, were able to sit there and just kind of keep piecing things together And what impresses me a lot is your jiu-jitsu IQ. You know the ins and outs of how to compete in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I see you ref at like for example at the Cincinnati Open. People, I know people from teammates from Newbury now, Newbury, Chicago. They were literally they were so impressed with your jiu-jitsu IQ about like what to do in certain spots and so forth and so on. Everyone's just listening to you. Like you were doing a lot of the coaching because I was doing a lot of the reffing, just DQing all of our guys. But no, just it impresses me a lot, and I can't wait to see you get on the mats and compete. I think it's gonna be something special. I think it's gonna be a little nerve-wracking for you since you haven't done it in a while.
Oh, for sure.
I remember how nervous you were competing at the Chicago Open all the way back at purple belt. So
Yeah.
we
And that's
can,
something, you deal with all the time, or
right.
nerves. But it's funny, like, you hear guys like, Braulio Estima, who's a multiple-time black belt world champion. He's like, I don't sleep well the night before. My stomach hurts before I go on the mat. My palms are, really, he's sweating. And, it's funny because the guy is one of the most dangerous dudes on the planet, a legend in jiu-jitsu, and he even gets scared.
Right. Everyone gets scared. Everyone's scared. Yeah. Everyone gets scared. And then you have to get nervous. You have to get scared. You have to feel that anxiety, and to the point that fight or flight's going to kick in. And you just got to train yourself to when that fight or flight decision, that fight or flight moment comes up, that you have to just train yourself to choose fight every single time.
Yeah.
And I've learned that. That's what I had to learn too, going through the ranks. And it's just something that we all learn, and something that as a competitor you kind of have to learn. And
absolutely.
Deal with it.
You become like a gamer.
Right.
I mean, once you
we're
learn
to control about that a little bit.
yeah. Once you learn to like control the clock and control certain positions, like guys are so smart. Like going back to like the jiu-jitsu IQ thing, like for me, when I think like from a young age in jiu-jitsu, I kind of like knew that I never thought that I would be like any good at jiu-jitsu, because like in wrestling I was like an average wrestler. I was never amazingly good at anything. I'm not amazingly good at jiu-jitsu even. But for some reason, jiu-jitsu works like it. For some reason, like my brain is wired to be able to do jiu-jitsu. Like I could watch from like a young age, like a position, and do it. So I remember like Marcelo coming in doing a seminar, and I was a white belt, and he was like doing a more advanced technique, and I could figure it out. Being able to just kind of look at a spot and be able to break it down is important. But also like, I watch 2 to 3 hours of jiu-jitsu a day, and I maybe even in that 2 to 3 hours, I maybe only be able to watch like 2 or 3 matches, because I'm watching it over and over again, looking for little tiny parts. But I'm like watching guys and girls that have like similar movements that I like to use. Like I don't watch people that don't really mimic real well in my game. So for the most part, the biggest mistake, and this is advice to anyone that watches this, is like the biggest mistake that I made in jiu-jitsu, and you take this for what it is. Like I tried to learn when I was like a white belt, blue belt, and into the purple belt stage. I tried to learn everything that I could, because I wanted to be like an encyclopedia of jiu-jitsu, like everything, like all the guards that I could figure out, all the submissions, a ton of sweeps, guard passes, just try to be as dynamic as possible. But the biggest thing, I'll tell you, that is the biggest mistake I ever made in jiu-jitsu, is because what I found out is that when I would ever train with someone who was like technically like better than me, they would destroy me, because I couldn't do any of those techniques to them, because I didn't understand how they worked. I didn't understand the intricacies of them. So now I tell people, like, I pretty much brushed all that stuff that's useless aside, and I really only do like maybe like 25 moves, maybe, but I'm getting to the point where I'm able to I'm sharpening those skills to hopefully where when I can compete, I can hit those 25 moves on almost anyone. Within reason, of course.
Yeah, you're definitely on the right track. It's funny how everything, kind of comes full circle. We sit there and start with a small moves, and then we sit there and expand our games to some crazy, ridiculous, like library of moves, encyclopedia of moves, and then, as we get older through the ranks, we sit there and kind of start narrowing it down and be like, this is our bread and butter. And
I remember like you telling me when I was a purple belt, like the moves that get you to purple belt will get you to black belt.
Yep.
You just got to make them really. Once you kind of get to purple belt, at that point you're just sharpening the sword.
Right.
You're just getting everything.
Little tricks, little here and there, but you're just sharpening your technique and just getting everything ready to really do some big damage, like in the brown and black belt levels. So let's start wrapping this up a little bit. We've been talking now for about 45 minutes, actually. For the guys at New Breed and stuff, and hold on, there's that bumblebee. Got him. Nailed it. Sorry. There's a bumblebee. Nailed it. Good old Red Dead Redemption got him. All right. So take care of that problem. To the guys at New Breed, again, some of these guys may not know you. Some of them do, a small few, do know you, and they know you fairly well. What is one thing that you want these guys to know about you?
Well, first off, I want you guys to know, like, number one, if you're ever in Ohio, please come train with me, man. I love having visitors. I love having guys that are from the affiliation come and visit me and train. And, you guys are always welcome to train, with me and the guys at True Art. And, I would say, like, this is such an interesting question, because I'm not that interesting of a person. I don't have anything interesting that I want them to know about me. But, the one thing I'll tell you is, like, you guys are, in very, very good hands. And, as long as you guys are training hard and working hard and, like, working towards a common goal, which is hopefully one of them is to get good at jiu-jitsu, you can get there. You're going to have times where you're, upset or down, where you think you're plateauing in the sport, and everyone goes through it. But, at the same time, as long as you keep trucking forward, and keep pushing forward and just keep, just working as hard as you can, you'll get there eventually. Everyone goes through the blues of jiu-jitsu, the ups and downs, especially right now with the gyms and everything being closed. But, the one thing I'll tell you is, like, especially in this sport, as long as you're willing to work hard like I have, and like we talked about, I haven't had, the exposure to amazing training partners and exposure to these high-level coaches and stuff, like world champion training partners. You can get good at jiu-jitsu. It doesn't matter. People complain about not having that. It's just an excuse. Like, you can get good. You just have to make each other good. As long as you're willing to put in that work, you'll get to where you want to go in the sport.
Let's talk about, okay, so let's kind of just wrap things up here with a little quick fire Q&A type deal stuff. You've traveled a little bit. You've traveled to New York. Who's got better pizza, Chicago or New York? Put you on the spot. We're gonna put you on the spot with some of these questions.
This is like rapid fire? I have to answer fast.
Yeah, as fast as you can. Go ahead. Yeah, you don't have to. Yeah, just rapid fire.
Chicago, better pizza, Chicago, New York, Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Chicago, cool. I like it. That's why we're friends. What is your go-to food that you eat every single time you come to Chicago? I think I can answer this, but I'm gonna sit there.
Al's beef.
That's exactly what I was gonna answer. You love Al's beef. You love Al's beef.
I've never been to Portillo's, though. That's the problem.
You've never been to Portillo's? Really? I've never taken you there?
Portillo's. No.
I like
that
or
the Hardee's. I always look forward to the Hardee's on the Turnpike. They're everywhere in Indiana.
Yeah, they're everywhere. Well, I know they're starting to shut them down on the Turnpike. They're starting to shut them down. The last time I drove there in the rain, they started shutting them down a little bit. But they're around. They're on the way. Other question. You're an avid gamer, all right? You're an avid gamer. You're one of the best Call of Duty guys that I've played with, like shooter guys that I play with. Here's my question, and Cheyenne and Guillermo are going to back me up, and my brothers too, who you've played with as well too, which they're hilarious when they play. Why are you such an asshole and take everything so seriously playing Call of Duty?
Because I'm competitive.
Oh yeah, me too. That's
because I'm competitive. And that's the thing, man. Like, I give 0 Fs because honestly, I've been like that my whole life. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what it is. I want to be the best and I want to win. I don't play Apex Legends. I don't play Call of Duty Warzone to lose, to get second. I go to pub stomp and smash little kids. To just beat on them, to make them cry and make them rage quit. That is my goal when it comes to playing that game. And anyone who doesn't have that similar goal to me,
I have a similar goal. I have a similar goal. I strategically can.
Your kill death ratio says otherwise.
It's getting better. It started like at 0.5 to 0.8. I know it's not I know it's not 2.27. You went down. You slipped a little bit.
I have a 2.31 now. Actually, get it right.
Oh, 2.31? No, really? 2.31? Yeah, we'll see about that.
Yeah, honestly, like it's the competitive nature. Like, there are things that, like, I found myself that I'm not competitive in, and there are things that I don't care about. I literally, like, if I went and lost at like something I literally could care less about, It's fine. But if I really truly like I'm good at something, oh, I'm competitive as hell. I've always been that way, and I hate to lose.
It's basically a nightly thing. Shannon, we'll play with Shannon until he rage quits, and then I'll just like sit there and text Guillermo and Cheyenne and be like, "Hey, what are you doing, man? You want to play?"
Yeah, I hate to lose. I hate to lose more than I love to win. It's one of the best quotes I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, it is one of the best quotes I've heard in my life as well too. That's it's funny stuff. God, I know there's a bunch of other stuff, but we can go on and on and on. But yeah, I mean, okay. Well, actually, here's the last one. You mentioned Hardee's. Is it Hardee's or Carl's Jr.? Which came first?
Oh, I have no idea. I've never seen a Carl's Jr. So I'm
gonna say Hardee's.
I've never seen a Carl's Jr. in my life. That's like West Coast stuff. I've never seen a Hardee's. I've only ever seen Hardee's.
What makes you more nervous, competing or flying?
Flying, 100%.
I've never heard anyone. For the guys at home,
100%.
the guys watching this, I've never heard anyone complain more about getting on a plane.
I wasn't complaining. The guy said there was a problem with the exterior of the plane. That was you can't take off. There's a problem with the exterior.
No, but it's
flying 110% is my biggest fear in life. It is literally awful.
What's your favorite? Well, you're like a closet foodie like me and stuff like. Well, I'm the aspiring restaurateur.
Right.
You're a closet foodie. What is your favorite food restaurant that you like? You haven't traveled like all over the world, but like you've traveled to Vegas, New York, which obviously prime time places to go eat. Favorite restaurant that you ever been?
Favorite restaurant I've ever been to? Cut in the Venetian or Allegro in the Wynn in Las Vegas.
Yeah, both the Cuts. I've never been to Allegro. Cut, good stuff.
Yeah,
good
all
stuff.
I do when I go in the Allegro is just bring me the meatballs. When I raise my hand like this, just bring me more meatballs. That's all I eat. But yeah, cut in the Venetian and Allegro in the Wynn in Las Vegas are my favorite restaurants.
Awesome. Well, let's wrap it up over there, guys. And, Shannon, again, thanks for everything that you do out there. You are the tip of the sword out there in the Northeast Ohio area, in the Ohio area. And, thank you for everything that you do. Those are the guys who've never met Shannon, and you see him whether you go visit him or you see him at a tournament or you get a chance to visit, hopefully you don't run over more deers and stuff. But you get a chance, go talk to Shannon. He's a funny guy. He's if anything, you guys got to sit there and watch Shannon and Merchant do their thing because they are Admiral Costello, man. They're like
if Merchant and I are in your corner coaching, chances are we're not watching your match.
Yeah, you're gonna lose.
Nothing is getting done.
Nothing productive is getting done, but
nothing is going to happen.
But as a referee, I hear it. I remember and since I'm just hearing you guys coaching, and I'm like, you guys are such dicks. Like you guys haven't said anything.
Nothing.
Just laughing at each other. But it's hilarious. It's like I hear it, and it's just entertainment. The entertainment value there is phenomenal. But guys, if you ever run into Shannon, say hello, talk to him. Wealth of knowledge. Again, we were talking about the jiu-jitsu IQ. He knows a lot, and thank you again. I can't wait to see you on the mats. Whenever the next tournaments are, or when they start back up. But thank you again, and thanks for being on. Anything else you want to say?
Thanks, guys. No, man, I appreciate you guys. Mark, thank you for having me on. Again, guys, I hope you guys learned a little bit about me. Again, you can follow me on Instagram, and if you have any questions about anything, shoot me messages, and I look forward to seeing you guys really soon.
All righty, thank you, Shannon. I'm going to end the recording in 3, 2, 1.